I'm recording. Right, so this is going to be a fairly long video of doing a heuristic evaluation of Into the Breach using the game, using the play gameplay heuristics. So these heuristics are, there's a much bigger set of these than I'm going to use this evening. I'm going to use category 3 of the heuristics, which are usability and game mechanics. I'm probably quite quiet, there's not much I can do about that, unfortunately. So the first heuristics, heuristic A, relate to documentation and tutorial. Personally, I don't particularly agree with these heuristics, but A1 is players do not need to read manual or documentation to play. A2 is player does not need to access the tutorial to play. Then heuristic B is status and score. So game controls are consistent within the game and follow standard convention. Status score indicators are seamless, obvious, and available and do not interfere with gameplay. Controls are intuitive and mapped in a natural way, and they are custom and default images for standard settings. Consistency shortens the learning curve. Okay, B4 is kind of enough. It's not really a heuristic. C, heuristic game provides feedback. Game provides feedback and reacts in a consistent, immediate, and challenging way to the player's actions. Appropriate audio, visual feedback. Importantly, I'm going to have the sound off for this, just so you can hear my voice a bit better, because it's at a very low volume and it can probably drown me out. Then heuristics D, terminology. Game goals are clear. Game provides clear goals. Presents overriding goals early, as well as short-term goals throughout the gameplay. Skills needed to attain goals are taught early enough to play or use later, or write for new skills needed. The game gives rewards that immerse the player more deeply in the game by increasing their capabilities, capacity, or for example, expanding their ability to customize. Heuristic E, burden on the player. Game does not put unnecessary burden on the player. Players are given controls that are basic enough to learn quickly. They expand for more advanced options for more advanced players. So this is kind of the evolving moveset you see in a lot of games with skill trees these days. Heuristic F, screen layout. Screen layout is efficient, integrated, and visually pleasing. Player experience says the user interface is consistent. The player's experience, the user interface is HUD as part of the game. Art is recognizable as the player and speaks to its function. Navigation. Navigation is consistent, logical, and minimalist. The use of the word minimalist, minimalist is a stretch there. Heuristic H, error prevention. Player error is avoided. Player interruption is supported, so that players can easily turn the game on and off and save the game in different states. Upon returning to the game, the player has enough information to begin play. So this is the kind of returning to a civ game and being like, what on earth is going on here? Players should be given context-sensitive help while playing, so that they are not stuck and need to rely on manually for help. All levels of players are able to play and get up quickly and easily with tutorials or progressive such adjustable difficulty levels. Then heuristic I doesn't apply because it's game story immersion, so it's beyond what I'm looking at here. Right, so this is Into the Breach. I've never played it before. I've sort of seen it around and design discussions and stuff. I know vaguely how the game works. So starts off creating a new profile. So enable tutorial tips. So yeah, lights up fine. So create. Right now, so we've got, so can't do continue. New game. Right, let's start with diving into options. Okay, so all the colors are fine. Yeah, so I've muted all the audio. Colorblind mode, good. Select language, edit hotkeys. Game Tammy UI, larger fonts, that's good. So you could size up if you've got poor eyesight. Add chest on the clipboard. End turn confirmation, so that's good on heuristic. How about heuristic? Oh, we've got heuristic H to confirm end of turn, rather than just letting it turn. Right. Credits, I'm not going to this now. Profile. So it's kind of irritating that you can't change your profile name, as far as I can tell. So achievements. None of these mean anything particular to me yet, but that's because I haven't started the game. So I don't think this is a heuristic breach. Like, even so the player can go and look at these and they don't mean much yet. It's not. Yeah, so the only heuristic breach so far is a breach in that is probably yeah, so that's actually heuristic H, error prevention. So if I input my name wrong here, like it's a super minor thing, so severity 1. I'll be rating from severity 1 to 4. 1 is super minor, 4 is this would stop playing. If I encounter a 4, I'll probably stop playing. Or I would probably stop playing. Right, so it's also probably worth noting about this that so you could argue that this is a breach of heuristic F relating to screen layout because it's because everything's like shoved over here, but these are grouped nicely and efficiently. Anyway, clicking the game. Right, story. Can I click to accelerate these? Nope. Right. Okay. Right, so, okay, this is probably a heuristic breach here. This is like a wall of information to begin with. So, it's probably a breach of heuristic E, because it's putting a slightly high burden, because, well, I've got tooltip, so it would take me a second to take in all this information. It's also a heuristic breach in a heuristic breach? Okay, so it arguably is in. Okay, so this is a breach in heuristic F screen layout, specifically F2, because, and it's actually arguably has to be 2. So the problem with this is, now the information that's meaningful to me here is this Valve, Kelson, combat mech, the stat, cannon mechs, what these things do when they hover over, but they're the same color palette and they're the same saturation, and brightness as this, which is all just background art. Now the menu layout around here helps this, which is why this is only a 1 over 2. There's also these, so this is definitely, these things popping up are, so you could argue they're goals, but they're goals, yeah, no, these are actually good. I was going to say they're bad because they're not relevant to me yet. Like, I'm being presented things before they are relevant and before I can understand them, increasing the burden. But they're establishing goals, things, and they're giving me suggestions on how to do things. Also good here is we've got adjustable difficulty in line with heuristic. Where was that gone? There was definitely one relating to difficulty. So this is partially for me a way to practice these heuristics. So yeah, so this is heuristic H, error prevention, but it's a good thing that we've got normal, hard, easy, right, so just 3 options. Right, and then I guess, so I can, okay, so that's giving me goals, that's decent. They're in that mech, rename them for launch and squad. Okay, so I don't have any incomes locked, unlocked. 9? Okay, right, so I was going to say these buttons, being able to click on these buttons and do nothing would be bad, but when I hover over it tells me can't do this yet. This currency scheme, right, so I guess let's start. Okay. So dropping in. Right, okay, so unavailable. So there was a slight problem there where the dialogue was popping up, and then these things were popping up behind it, so that made that quite difficult to read the information there. If you were, say, hovering over one of these and you don't know whether these are going to appear beforehand. So that is a breach of heuristic F because it's a screen layout issue. Like you could easily just have these not pop up during the dialogue. So then what we've got here, corporate reputation, reactor cores, power grid, resistance reaches 0, return of power building with enemy combat, percentage chance of building will resist damage, save people. Right. So okay, I guess. So this is the only level I can play for now. Got the max view again. Got the menu. So I've got the same options I had before. So that's a nice consistency thing. Go to save and quit. Right. Go to here. Right. Continue. Okay, so right, okay. So here we go. So this combat simulation. Right, so we'll start the simulation. So it's right, simulation started. So after this, I'll have to see if you can. Okay, so this is the power grid, and if the building is damaged, it's reduced. So we saw this in the previous screen, but so yeah, I have to actually click on this to dismiss. Enemy attacks. So hover over to see details about attacks. Where? Okay, so that. What detail is this? Okay, so this is actually a heuristic problem of. So I can hover over this and it does make a change, but it doesn't actually give me any. Okay, so this is again a screen layout. Oh no, so this is arguably, so this is heuristic C, and it's a 2 problem because so when I mouse over this, it does give me feedback and it lights these up in yellow, just it shows that these are being attacked, but I already knew that. Okay, I didn't already see that, and then it also makes changes in 2 opposite ends of the screen, which are ground tile, no special effect, and then it shows what it does to the power grid if that attack goes off. So in order to like get the meaningful information out of mousing over this that I couldn't just see here, I then have to look at 2 opposite directions. Right. Quit. Right. So select make that the clicking on it. Okay, so that's good feedback on that. So the game does have a colorblind mode. If it didn't, this red-green might be a problem. So move the neck here. Quick and welcome to use it. Number keys work as a shortcut. That's good. It's following industry conventions. And then so move them. Right. And turn. So this tutorializing nothing's particularly wrong. That's nicely shown. So that's doing well in line with heuristic F. Right, enemy turn. Okay. So those were good feedback. And that right. And that. Okay. So move and shoot. Is this? Okay, so what does this sleeve mean? So is presumably attacking in some kind of way. Okay, so it wipes it and then it does 3 damage, but so it's saying 3, but it's also saying 2 in the top corner. So this is, I reckon, a breach of heuristic B because it's giving me confusing status. So I think I can then figure out that because there's only 2 buildings here, it doesn't matter if it's doing 3 damage. There's only 2 things for it to actually kill. But the problem is that's not, like, I have to figure that out basically. That why not? Does it not just say 2 here? Right, start. Okay, so that's nice that it flashes to say attack with this thing. So orange tiles show how you can shoot. So okay, so on slight thing here. So this is a very small error prevention. It would be nice to escape over the menu. Yeah. So go into options. It would be nice if I could turn on some way for confirm attacks. Now you might argue that like allowing you to completely go back and undo and confirm and stuff might be too far. I might make the game too easy, but having on as a setting players can use is completely fine. So I'd argue that's a breach of 2, but I could also see it being annoying if that was on by default, which is why I checked the menu for it. So that's a heuristic H level 2 breach. I like how I'm calling these breaches now because we're playing into a breach. So this, move again, do its thing. There we go. Success. Enter. Right. Enemy turn. Firefly. Okay, so it's explaining what this knight does, giving a nice thing of it. So this is actually some good. So the way they built this up is nice because it definitely follows heuristic E. So in this case, you'll notice that normally a heuristic valuation points out a lot of issues. In this case, I'm delivering a lot of praise. This is presumably because they did quite a lot of usability testing in this game. This game has already been through many rounds of heuristic analysis, so it's. In this case, I'm finding things that are quite good, rather than the normal thing of you need to find problems. So this is a good example of heuristic E because they're introducing things in increasing complexity over time. So now it can do its move, and then its option. There we go. Right. So this setup, this tutorial moment of drowning the unit kills it instantly. Right. Then, yeah. Okay, so this is a slight confusion here, probably in, yeah, status and score. So the game was just like, if a unit goes into the bottom, it dies, and then it let me move through here. So I might not have done that because I think I might have thought I would die, but I don't. So that's a slight status and score to 2. Like, move this here. Okay, that's actually a breach of terminology. No, so it's a breach of heuristic B3 because the standard for strategy games is if you move and click on it, move next to and click on an enemy, you'll attack them. Like that's what Fire Emblem uses. That's what Advanced Wars uses. That's what Wargroove uses. So this not doing that is a slight breach of industry conventions. However, you could argue that it's to the benefit of error prevention. So, right, and then end turn. It's saying action available. Continue because there's nothing to shoot. Right. Okay. And okay. Yeah, completing missions. Move by spying. Okay, so this is arguably a breach of heuristic D terminology because the game was just like, here's this massive wave of enemies for you to deal with. Now you've learned some tutorial stuff. and then now it's saying that my overall goal of every mission you win by surviving until the victory. Bonus objectives. Okay, so right, and now the game just leads me to it. So if we go now, I have to pretend to be good at video games. So what good things can we do here? I want to push. Okay, so this is a further example of the thing I mentioned earlier, where by standard I could move there and quick and attack, but not in this game. Move there, punch. Oh, so I think I've pushing units into an additional damage to both. Right, okay. So this is something actually missing from the tutorial. So that is heuristic. It's difficult to tell which heuristic this is, because it's not feedback status. Yes, it's a heuristic B breach, probably a 2. That I like. If I'd known that, I could have planned for that, but trying out first time, and then. Game is tricky. Is there any way I can do this that isn't dark? Probably not. I can shoot that one. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Okay, so good. Right click lets me cancel that. Is there anywhere else? Right click. Okay, so it does tell me down here. It's going to say it'd be a bit confusing if it didn't tell me that. Here. Thing. This. Okay. So it's not that we pushed that. So this is a this is an example of heuristic C breach. Heuristic C? No, heuristic D terminology. No, it's heuristic B again, because the indicators that these things are going to get pushed and then move. It wasn't clear that this bone was not going to get pushed, but it's probably only a 1. Oh well, being banded into the breach, but that's not the point. Right, so it's telling me what primary goal is. So I wonder if that turn is actually not possible to. Okay. So. So if the game didn't have, that is okay. That is more than so the heuristic breach I talked about earlier, how it's not using the standard control setup. You can see me repeatedly making this mistake, which I think should help me emphasize the why this is worth being one of the heuristics. Okay, so I can move there and do that. Okay, that is not at all what I wanted to do. I thought that did damage. It doesn't. That was my fault. There was no heuristic breach there. I was just being bad. So Move on here. Okay, so I'm doing this as a test because I don't know. Will that die, or will it get punched into the building? Because it's on. So it's pretty. I think it's saying it will damage the building, but I'm not sure. So I think this is a breach of heuristic B. Yep. Because well, I guess let's find out. Yeah, no, it wasn't because both those were flashing. So it's a 1 because I think I sort of knew that was what would happen, but it wasn't. Enter, continue, yes. Right. That's that done. Right, so here's the interesting thing. Takes in missions will persist. Okay, mission rewards, so it's doing some goal explaining, different types of rewards. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. If I go to options, so it's not in options, I don't believe that there's any way to replay the tutorial. So this is probably a breach on. Okay, so it's a breach of heuristic H at a 3, because if I'd said no to the tutorial, there was no way for me to replay it. Like, okay, there's one way, and it's to create a new profile. But conceivably, I could have the game limits you to 3 profiles. I could have 3 profiles for other people. Can't play the tutorial, but so I think that's probably a 3. It's definitely the most severe thing we've had so far, because if somebody's just clicking through, they might miss the tutorial. And there's no way to go back and play. Right. So bonus objectives. Right. Okay, so I think bonus objectives, the sigil relates to the reward I get from it, but it doesn't, because on this starting island I'm only seeing 2 of them. I don't know if that's true for reactor cores, so that's a issue of yeah, probably heuristic D is the most appropriate, because it's reusing these symbols but not in a clear way. And there's clearly some relation here, but it's not entirely clear what it is, but it's probably only a 2. Right, so I guess we'll go here. Right. Okay, start mission. Right. Okay, so this is something that was actually missing from the tutorial. Is whatever this is. This dropping in, which I think was expected, but I'm surprised the tutorial doesn't give that option. I guess they wouldn't. They could have you drop it down in 1 square. So this is a break of heuristic E, but it's out of 2. So I'll put this person here, this person here, and this person here. Sure. Right. Confirm. Okay, so good error prevention there. I have to actually confirm, not just when I put down this third one. Okay, so that was actually something that was unclear. So this is B status and score. So it was unclear that they were going to get to move first. So you can kind of see how I positioned here, going right, I'm going to line up this shot, shoot them all, but they get the first turn. Kind of unclear that that is the case. As probably a 2, because it'll cost you like 1 mission, assuming it doesn't change. Right, and then we have this. So the question is, why was this not in the tutorial? because we saw enemy units doing this in the tutorial, but it wasn't. Like we saw that occurring, but they didn't tell us. Right. Okay, so this is actually functioning more as a second tutorial. So what does this do? So community terrain, +1 HP as long as it's living. So these have one more than the other. Fine. Click off that. Do this. Okay, so any unit that stops in this place will trigger the mine and be killed. So I can do so there's a small issue there with if I left click on one of my mechs, I'll stop moving it. And then if I left click again, okay, so they can't not move. They can not move, but right. So the good thing there is you can't consume your move accidentally by clicking back where you started. So I guess if I actually play this mission rather than yeah, do that. Line them up. Unit stands. Okay. So I was told that in the bottom right hand corner. I'd actually argue that this is maybe too far away and too small, because you're not paying attention to it. Like it's not the mech fight, but it contains a lot of important information. So that is a heuristic F because it's related to screen layout, because it's not efficient and it's not clear. So next, move here and punch this out the way. Then use this and okay, so I didn't actually have to dismiss that. I could take my entire turn without getting rid of the burning forest thing. That's actually inconsistent with previous pop-ups of those, which you had to click on first. So that is navigation because it's not consistent. So it's a heuristic G issue. Oh, I do have an undo move button, but I can't undo the move I just did. So I think I can undo movement, but not shots. So that's is that a breach of a heuristic? It's arguably because it's not consistent, but okay. So this is so I can actually undo that move because I'd forgotten that this is going to punch this. Let's start with them. Here, that's right. Start with you. Webbed. Cannot move, it says still attacked. Yep, that's plain pop up. So, can I do something fancy here? Yeah. That thing dies. Oops, that's okay. Okay, so bonus objective things. Okay, so I can't step on that, I can't go there. That's all like fairly clear. I can just punch that, however, and do the obvious thing. Okay. and then I can't line up an attack with this. I'll move down here. Yeah, because I can shoot myself. Okay. So it's fine, the game told me that was going to happen, I knew that was going to be a thing. Right. Punch that onto the landmine. But now I can't move. Right, so this is something the tutorial didn't actually say, is if you attack, you then cannot move. You can move and then attack, but you can't attack and then move. So that is, and there's no way to undo an attack. So that's actually heuristic H and heuristic G because of the navigation and error prevention problem, but it's still only a 2. Okay, it would help if I remembered how this game actually functions. That would be wonderfully good. Like, so I just was being dumb for a second there. That wasn't any heuristic thing. So if I line, nope. Okay, so it does a log thing. So this is something that actually wasn't clear from this tutorial, was that this can't shoot directly next to itself. So that's a so it's heuristic A because it relates to documentation and tutorial, but not in the way heuristic A normally means that you don't need a tutorial, but just that in this case the tutorial allows you to pop. So I'm doing it. So in the corner. Take that whole thing. Oh, of course, it's turnover. Right. So this is a slight problem. I've got no way of telling at a glance which of my mechs I do up there. Okay. So its citizen score, it's a 1 because I can tell up here. Gives me a bunch of information, but I can't tell looking at the center of the screen. It's off in the corner, so it's only a 1. And then guess I'll kill that then. Right, and enter. Okay, almost in spawner. What's the best way to do it? We're just going to play it into the reach for a bit. Right, so I think that's everything we're actually going to... I'm realizing we've actually got... Okay, so the one thing we haven't had explained is this attack order. So that's a screen layout issue, because I also only just noticed it. And it's probably a 2 because this could be incredibly important, and I imagine later in the game it is. So arguably this is fine because we're waiting for later for it to be important, but that's the final heuristic. I'll type these up into a much shorter document to go through them all and summarize. But yeah, so this was a heuristic analysis of Into the Breach using the play heuristics. Well, category 3 is the play heuristics. I hope this was a helpful example of how a heuristic analysis might work in practice. And like, it's worth noting there's other heuristics I could have used here, such as the game approachability heuristics, that might have been more appropriate in this case. But yeah, I did these because I wanted to learn and practice with these heuristics. So I hope that was helpful. And if I hit the stop recording button properly, that would be good as well.